every time I see something come up on my YouTube feed or somewhere else about like, here's how I closed the 5K website deal. And it's like, that's cool, bro. What if you just made 10 grand a day on autopilot? Like, it's just, like, why wouldn't you just do that? It's so much simpler. Like, you can just do that. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, today we are doing a video on how I built an automated website agency from complete scratch to over $275,000 a month. And as you can see on the screen right now, this was done with no sales calls, no hands-on client work, no project management crap, no revisions, process, no crazy coding, no, as you can see right there, no testimonials or case studies were actually like really adamantly pushed in the marketing at all. That only didn't even really, in fact, even now, not even really pushed. It's just on the back end on the trust pilot for it and everything. So it's just like happy customers and scaling. Never had to speak to a single customer myself. No design employees, no crazy complex ops, anything like that. Now, in this video, this is not going to be so much of a step-by-step, particularly. That will be in a video coming soon. But this is more of a couple overarching lessons on the angle of attack that needs to be had in order to actually do this. By angle of attack, I mean like frame of mind that you need to be in order to run an automated website agency like this, instead of like your standard cold calling and cold outreaching people and then having to negotiate on a proposal and blah, 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 project work. And at the end of it, you only make 5 or 10 grand. That's like a joke. This is going to be just an overarching breakdown of some of the things that I wish I knew coming into it. So yeah, in terms of proof and everything, I will show you live proof. Hold on. So this is Hyros. This is analytics tracking platform for ad costs, revenue, stuff like that. And I'll refresh it so you know that this isn't horse shit. One moment. I just like to get this part out of the way because so many people are like, oh, this is cap. This isn't real. So there you go. You can see the reason I put the 20th to the 22nd, by the way, is because of how the attribution in Hyros works. You need to extend it 1 or 2 days because of like how the revenue attribution works because of like slight time delays and stuff like that. But yeah, 275K. There's some stuff like affiliate revenue and stuff in the back end too. That's not even counted here. So actually 275 is low. It's actually higher than that. If I were to, off the top of my head, put an actual number at the current run rate, it's probably closer to like 282 to 285, somewhere in there. So yeah, I'm just going to go lower because it doesn't really matter. It's, you know, in this upper range, it start, you know, 10K up or down really doesn't make a difference. So yeah, starting off with why most web designers and website selling businesses fail. It's not that they can't really create good designs, understand user experience, develop functional websites, or really deliver quality work. That's not really the issue. It's because they're approaching this. They approach web design and things related to that as isolated services rather than almost like a factory, like a systemized, productized, economy of scale based operation, which is where the real money is. As you can see, I don't know about you guys. I'm going to be honest. I don't think I've ever seen anyone else talk about having a web design agency that's gotten up to this much volume. At least I haven't really checked. I haven't seen anything related to it. So this operating like this as more of like a boutique isolated service business, what that's going to lead to over time, the longer you try to run it that way, is that you're either going to burn through resources or employees before you get true traction and you can actually turn it into a real business. We've already gone over proof a little. If you want more proof, here's a screenshot from my ad account in this same time frame that I showed everything, which is a little under 100K in the last 30 or so days. Profit after cost of sales. Another cool note, in terms of like my background and why this is actually extremely relevant, I've consulted and driven results for 8, 9, and 10 figure hosting companies. Some examples being like GoDaddy, Swift, ClearShield, Aweber, System.io. And I've actually been the #1 affiliate on the planet for 2 different web hosting platforms so far. That means that I was the #1 person driving them new customers related to website products, services, so on and so forth on the entire planet. So when I say that I drive customer volume and I genuinely understand what it takes to get people to purchase products, services related to websites, hosting, anything related to that, it is not an exaggeration by any means. So in terms of the main problem that I would say that most freelancing related to web design, even like marketing agency, because that's kind of within the same wheelhouse, is that the traditional model of web design, kind of as I mentioned before, like the cold outreach or content, sales call, negotiating, proposal, onboarding, project management, design, revision process, it's too operationally complex and there's too much saturation for it to actually become like a real business. And that's why pretty much everything you see online, I mean, if you're watching this right now, you've probably seen videos that are kind of in the same space on YouTube regarding, oh, you know, I got my web design agency to 15K a month or 20K a month. And that's like typically the reason you see that as the highest numbers that people ever report are like, oh, I made 100K in 4 months. Like the reason that's the highest you'll ever see is because the traditional model it's not a scalable model. Essentially, that's what I'm getting at. And you can't, even if you have multiple designers and you have like this whole fleshed out operation, you're never going to be truly out or working on the business. It's always going to be inside the business in order for you to maintain a good fulfillment quality and for customers to be happy. And there's going to be like a main lesson that comes with all this to handle this main problem, but it won't make sense if I were to drop it right here or you're to jump to the end of the video. Stick with me just for a little bit and it'll make sense and it'll clear so much up. It's crazy. Trust me on this. So stick with me for a second. So core problem number one that we need to handle regarding web design agencies and web design people in this space, most web designers approach business in what I've seen is the most short-sighted manner and frame of mind compared to any other online business niche that exists, period. And the skill set is far overvalued by web designers than the people that they're actually selling to, what it actually its true market value is. Meaning that every single time I see some web designer posting something online, it's about it. They're like whining about increasing their prices, and it's all about like me. The issue is that the thing that's being sold to people, it's not actually the design. Meaning the businesses that are buying web design typically don't give a shit about the design, and the designs aren't actually what drives results. Because what actually matters to businesses or the people that are buying web design is conversions. Okay, it is actually like direct results. Things are changing now. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but things are changing now in how a lot of businesses advertise online, where like brand marketing, at least from my perspective, what I've noticed, and every time I've helped a huge company drive results or for myself with the automated website agency, branding and like branded marketing and stuff, it's almost like it's starting to matter less in the current time period. Branding is starting to matter a whole lot less, especially if you think about it when the economy gets constrained and people are more worried about their money going further. Branding starts to take a back seat to direct outcomes and direct utility. So no matter how big or small the business that's being sold to is, they're either only caring about increasing their cash flow or asset value by driving more results and getting more conversions, whether that's an increased amount of leads or an increased amount of sales. So pretty and complex website designs, if you guys have actually ever seen the inside of an ad account or actually been on the back end related to statistics, pretty designs actually tend to lower the amount of conversions and lead captures that occur for businesses because one, not only do pretty designs tend to lower load times, That's one thing that detracts away from sales and conversions, but it's also extremely distracting. I've literally done split tests on some of my own funnels, some of my own sites, things like that, where all I had was a gross and ugly version of the exact same page and like a pretty version. Every single time without fail, the pretty version always generates less leads, less sales, average order values less, everything deteriorates the prettier it is. And trust, I've conducted a lot of split tests to back that up. That's why I always follow this saying right here. And if you've ever heard this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Ugly websites make more money every single time. I've never personally seen this disproven one time. Obviously, I don't mean a disorganized website. By ugly, I mean not like a pretty website. So, major overarching point here is that whenever I hear a website designer bitch and moan about wanting to raise their prices and clients not respecting the value in what's being provided, even though it's just redundant and complicated designs that lower a business owner's ROI, and most web designers just make this into a complete like pain in the ass for the customer. And whenever I see a web designer bitch about that, I know that they're a moron. They're thinking extremely short-sighted. They're being extremely selfish because they're more worried about like, well, no, you business owner, what you want does not actually follow the design principles that I learned in art school. Like, it doesn't matter. It's about, the point of this is driving ROI. So, lesson number one, main overarching point that I wish I figured out way earlier, is that when you have a commoditized service like web design or anything related, even like closely adjacent to that, one thing to keep in mind is that you are not supposed to actually profit on web design. I know that sounds crazy, but you're not actually supposed to profit on that. And in general, you're not supposed to profit off the first thing you sell someone and the initial thing that you start the customer relationship with. And websites are a fantastic core lead offer to get someone into your whole like service ecosystem. But if you are trying to run a business solely on profiting off just selling websites, especially if it's only high ticket, like say over $5,000 or even like $1,000 or $2,000 websites, that is so incredibly short-sighted. And it is, I'll put it this way, you are not supposed to actually profit on website sales. Websites are the most commoditized product/service on the entire internet. You are not supposed to profit off of it. And trust me, I know. Like, that's not where the actual profit is. It's off of back-end services and more marketing-related services. Anyway, moving into the next point. Core problem number 2 in the web design industry, and kind of in general, is that customer volume, this is like a really good follow-up to actually what we just went over. Customer volume matters more than price. Increasing LTV and upsells, things like that, that is the easiest part. High ticket, expensive stuff, back end, and increasing how much a customer spends with you, that is the easiest part of business. But getting more buyers every day, that's where the real experts exist. It's a good way of putting it. And to highlight this is that the reason the biggest website or the biggest companies on the planet that are in website-related industries do not prioritize high-price web design services. One of those reasons is that the bigger the market for a specific offering is, the longer the lifespan of the business. So if you have only when you have like a more niched down business, I guess we could say more niched down, where it's like only like this type of customer in this industry, your business is not going to last very long, comparative to someone that just sells more on like a problem basis. So if you only had, say, 5,000 potential customers, obviously this is a very hardcore example. If you only had 5,000 potential customers, you're going to exhaust your entire market in under a week. if you were to launch ads on any platform. Like, you know, even if your budget is super low, like you're spending $300 or $500 a day, you're going to exhaust your entire market and you're going to have full awareness in under a week, and you're not going to have very much business lifespan after that. Now, trust me, I completely understand the feeling of, you know, how good it feels to close super high ticket services where you have, like, you know, super high margins, you feel tens of thousands of dollars hit your bank account from a single transaction. The issue with that is that higher price services are only a higher ROI to you the less of them that you do. So the more fulfillment that your business is responsible for with each customer you do, the worse off your business's financials will be the higher you scale. Unless you start, you know, basically committing fraud at higher levels, right? That's the only way to solve that problem at scale. And a really good example of this that's very tangible and easy to understand is that this is why Volkswagen owns Audi, Bentley, Bugatti, Porsche, Lamborghini, Ducati, so on and so forth, not the other way around. In fact, Volkswagen's annual profit is almost 12 times Lamborghini's entire annual revenue. Lamborghini is like the perfect example of like more boutique, more like higher price on an individual basis, custom work, you know, lower volume, better customer base. But VW owns them, and it owns several others that follow the exact same principle. Everyone who's like boutique and higher priced and less volume based and like, no, I want to work with customers that value my time. They end up becoming the big guys, like little servants, basically, right? So one of the main things that you just want to keep in mind here is that there's a reason that all the industry giants have completely evaded high-priced boutique services, is because it's like it's simply just not as scalable. If you have a couple things that cost anywhere between, say, $50 and like $500, you can scale those to the moon, because pretty much anyone that, you know, is even like a potential business owner, spending $500 is an absolute joke. It's a drop in the bucket. So just push that at volume. It's so much simpler and it's so much more scalable. There's a reason that there's like multiple billion-dollar companies in this industry, and none of them even remotely fuck with high-priced web design services. So the lesson here is that focusing on acquiring at scale, and especially another thing too, is focusing on having your website-related offer be an actual loss leader. That's like one of the huge lessons I wish I figured out way earlier when it came into web design. And obviously in this video, I'm not giving like too much backstory and everything. I want to make this one actually more like value focused and more, you know, tangible in a way in terms of the angle of attack you're supposed to have. I'll be doing more stuff like breaking down exact stories and tactics and stuff. But yeah, back-end work, high-ticket upselling, that is the easy stuff. Okay, because you've already established the customer relationship. But until someone can acquire 100 new customers a day, in my experience, that business is just a house of cards. Like a single gust of wind can completely just wipe them. It's, you know, it's extremely vulnerable unless you can acquire customers at scale consistently. So re-engineering the business to do so matters a lot. And one of the last things, I want to make sure that you actually take this the right way, because this can be misconstrued. Niching down is potentially one of the most dangerous pieces of advices that I see spread around. Niching down is the wrong way to think about it. Because if you niche down, you can accidentally screw yourself. Because remember, the last 2 points I just went over is about increasing customer volume, increasing your total addressable market, increasing the amount of people that you can potentially sell to. When you say niching down, you're just limiting, like you're completely evaporating your ability to do what I just went over, right? And if you niche down, you accidentally screw yourself from potential customers for no other reason than a guy in a YouTube video told me to niche down, so I did it. It's, you know, it's like, did you even think? Because if you niche down, once again, you're reducing your total addressable market. The bigger the market, the more money you can make, and the longer your lifespan of business is. You need to restructure the thinking from not a niche in the sense of like a vertical, but more fixing a certain problem, which is a horizontal methodology of thinking. And this is because problems are present independent of niche, and they exist horizontally, not vertically, meaning multiple different verticals and niches have the exact same problem that your service, in this case, website related products and services, will be, that you can solve. But if you just say, nope, I only do it for plumbers, you're screwed. Congratulations. You just made it to where you can't scale. Good work, kid. So niching down is essentially the idea that, you're essentially attempting to solve too many problems along one single supply chain, which once again limits your total addressable market and makes it so your potential volume is limited because your scope for an individual single customer base has become so wide. So what you've done by niching down is you've limited the amount of people you can sell to, and you're not directly, but you're indirectly communicating that niche to that niche that your scope of work that you're going to be doing with them in any project you do or any product you sell them, that the scope is so much wider. So it indirectly communicates when you niche down to say, we only help plumbers or handyman or dentists. What ends up happening is that it becomes an indirect overpromise that your thing, the offering that you're giving them related to a website, no matter what it is, whatever service it is, that it is going to drive results, even though you aren't doing a full stack product or service. So let's say a landing page service for a dentist. I'm just pulling something out of my ass. If you are brand yourself as only working, we're the number one, web design landing page specialist for dentists. The problem is that let's say you only build a landing page for the dentist, but they don't fix how they're advertising or how they go about communicating to leads on the back end. You're still indirectly on the hook for why that dentist might not be getting results, even though you're not actually. Right? Like you and I can understand that, like, well, no. Like the dentist just paid me for the landing page or whatever. I don't know. Web design. You get what I mean. But if the dentist is an absolute moron when it comes to handling leads, or their marketing is like FUBAR, like fuck beyond all relief, you're still on the hook because you've branded yourself as like, yeah, this works for dentists. So what we need to do, because that's not the case, you're not on the hook for that. You are only contracted to say, do this one service and this one particular thing, not the full stack. What we need to do is, instead of focusing on a niche basis, we need to focus on a problem basis. And what that does is it changes our frame of reference to becoming like horizontal problem solution, where we are not directly on the hook for the entire process, meaning like the entire like supply chain of someone, a particular customer's business, unless they were to pay us directly for something full stack. So what we're doing is categorizing down our business, not niching down our business. Those are very different things. Me personally, I can't explain why. I've always been a super fan of horizontal scaling instead of vertically scaling. If for those of you that are more in, that understand that kind of terminology, horizontal scaling is how you, in my opinion, is how you don't have to, it allows you to keep a more simple business model and make a lot more money because the fulfillment has become so much less in scope in terms of what you're on the hook for. Not saying that we don't want to be responsible for people not getting results. That's not the point I'm making. But it's that people, when you scale horizontally, people treat your business as if they're buying a utility and a tool far less than buying a results-based service, even though our utility-based product or tool or however you want to frame it does drive results. they're no longer expectant of that. So when we do actually drive results with the product or service, in this case, web design, we actually get an increase in trust because it's not even really promised. And this is why I mentioned in the beginning, I don't have to push testimonials or case studies or show, client interviews or anything like that in order to do as much volume as I do. It's because the scope of what is being promised is so much less reduced that people feel that they're always getting an amazing deal. They're getting more results than what was promised, and it leads to happier customers. And the amount of fulfillment that is required on my end in terms of like I mentioned before, there's on a unit by unit basis, there's no direct handling of customers from a single person in the organization at all. That's it, like zero, because it's so utility basis and it's so productized. So when you do this, your offer, your marketing and sales process all becomes so easy, and so everything becomes so streamlined that acquiring dozens of new customers a day, fulfilling all of them, becomes a joke. Okay, it becomes so easy. It's literally just completely automated sales, as I've shown you before in the beginning of the video. So coming to the big overarching lesson here, and this is, hopefully all these pieces all together, now that they're coming together, this will make sense. And I hope this is going to be like a Jimmy Neutron brain blast moment for you. The big realization here is that the key to actually making real money with a web design business is to realize that you're not actually in the web design business. Because if web design is what someone specializes in, that doesn't make them an expert web designer. It means they're an underskilled marketer. So what business model are web designers actually in? Well, if you sell B2B, you're actually in conversion rate optimization. And if you sell B2C, you're actually in the capital formation business. I've done both, made a disgusting amount of money with both. And let me tell you, and though this, this isn't a particularly structured video, I didn't really put too much, I didn't have to put too much thought into this or anything. I didn't really want to. This is almost more like a fun side thing that I just decided to do to share how I did this. But the main thing I'm trying to get across as a point here is that when you realize that the web design business is not actually the web design business is when you make real money. Because every time I've heard, stuff from web design business, bro, how do I close $10,000 website clients? It's what if you just close $50, $200 customers a day? You could just do that too. It's such a better business model in general than the traditional website. How people normally fulfill it in web design agencies. Every time I see something come up on my YouTube feed or somewhere else about here's how I closed the 5K website deal, and it's that's cool, bro. What if you just made 10 grand a day on autopilot? It's why wouldn't you just do that? It's so much simpler. You can just do that. So yeah, I'm going to be making more videos. This is just the first one of many. I just wanted to throw something up on the channel first so that there's at least a little basis of content and start putting some stuff out. I'm going to be putting more stuff out and putting out more resources on how to do this. This is way easier way of running it all. It's completely automated. Trust me, I'm not personally calling 6,300 leads a month myself. Just phone ramming all day. I can promise you I'm not doing that. So if you guys want to see more videos, if you have video ideas, put them down in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe. I'm starting this new YouTube channel. I have an old one, but I'm starting this new one. Subscribe. Please, please, please give me video ideas and leave comments down below. I plan on fully breaking this down over time and completely changing how everyone runs website-based businesses and web design agencies, because every time I see something about here's how you basically beg someone to become an employee for them for only 3 weeks and have them be a pain in the ass. What kind of bullshit is that? Like, who wants to do that? Why wouldn't you just make 8 to 10 grand a day and not have to talk to clients or customers unless you want to? Duh. So yeah, I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be changing how people operate website agencies and website based businesses. So if you want to see more, once again, please, please, please drop video ideas down below. I need video ideas. As you can see, this is not structured at all because I was kind of like, I don't even, based on what everyone else is talking about, like, first of all, no one's brain is even, no one's head is screwed on right in this space in the first place. So, I don't even know what people want to see. But yeah, just leave video idea down below, subscribe, and there's going to be more coming. See you guys soon.